I don't believe that there is a single employer that I've ever been associated with, ever worked with, and frankly, just from folks I've talked with over the years, I don't think there's a single employer that enjoys layoffs. Like they look forward to them. Um, I mean, employers, we all know, I mean, employers that I work with, but we know we're dealing with people. It's not a surprise that they're, to understand that. Like there is empathy that goes out. There's a, there's a feeling that people have that they don't want to do it, right? And forget all the other reasons why they don't want to do it, right? Like example for the expense, right? It's costly for layoffs, and it's because you have to rehire at some point, more than likely, right? The issue that the we deal with most is that it deals with people. Like it is a challenge to do that, and it's not just the effect on the people who are being laid off. That is 100% a thing. It is also the effect that it has on the folks who weren't laid off, the teams that you have, and what they have to go through. So we're going to talk a little bit today about an article that covers about the truth about letting your low performers go and what that does to your organization. And then later we're going to talk about how I deal with my clients and what that looks like as well for them. So again, for those who know, I'm a business coach that works out of West Michigan around the country, and I hope to earn your subscription today. Again, I come live pretty consistently every single day where I'm talking about different things in and around the in around the business space, especially small and medium-sized businesses. We do talk about the big boys, but that's more about what it works here. So anyways, the surprising truth about low performers. All right. And again, this is from I want to make sure I get the author on this one here. It is, come on, give me the good stuff here. It is Ito. What's the name here? Oh, I'll have to find it later. It's all right. Anyways, for America's managers in 2025 is shaping up to be the year of the low performer. When Mark Zuckerberg laid off some 4,000 employees last month, he said the goal was to move out low performers and make sure we have the best people on our teams. Around the same time, Microsoft acts, and we've covered this at length about the layoffs that occurred and just the volume that ever happened. It was just, and the way they're looking at, they are cutting the low rating folks on your performance reports. And I have issues with that specifically because I do think that when folks are looking at the performance reports, we want to make sure that they are rating them according to what their job description says, not what the supervisor thinks they should be doing. So there's always work to be done there. Now, never mind that many of the target employees turned out to have high ratings. Bosses all across the country are sending the same message: raise your performance or you're next. Now, the reason with that high ratings is they're not getting, the supervisors aren't doing their job and providing the timely feedback that the individuals need to perform better. Okay. So with this, here's from Adam Grant. He's he's a smart dude. Organizational psychologist, professor of management at Wharton School, and the dude writes a lot of books. They're trying to create more accountability. They're worried that people are a little too comfortable and complacent. They're hoping that some people will even opt out because they realize they can't live up to the performance standard. And real quick, we go back to that. One of the issues that we're dealing with here is the change in the dynamic between labor and capital. You are seeing where those changes are not, people are not operating in the right mindset. Let's put it that way. I mean, lack of a better phrase. We are, excuse me. During COVID and the years afterwards, there was a mindset that you could get a job anywhere. You could just, the phrase is everything was available for you, right? That let me see here. Hold on. Sorry, I apologize. Just had something come up from a client. It's live here, folks. It's what we're doing. The concern that I have overarchingly is the fact that people have not adjusted to what they need to be able to do to understand the new dynamic. Right now, that is a huge piece of what we are dealing with here. Okay, sorry. All right, I'll back to you guys locked in now. Got that taken care of. So before, when you could just jump ship anytime and go to a different job, people got complacent. It's 100% the thing. Now it's not the case where jobs aren't as plentiful as they were before. It's taking longer to find a job. So people need to perform at work in a way that they think is going to be correct. I don't know why that did that. Let's get rid of that. All right. One problem, again, when you do crack down on low performers, it doesn't work. And again, there's research behind this. Again, a link is going to be in the description for this article. Be sure to check that out. It's demonstrated that raising the bar in performance tends to backfire with remarkable consistency. CEOs may think they're creating a meritocracy, but in reality, they're marching their company straight into a trap of sunken morale, high turnover, depressed profits, and reduced innovation. That's something I talk about with my clients about ad nauseum. When you let someone go, when they are fired, when they're laid off, it should never be a surprise that it's happening. And what does that mean? That means you have done all of your work ahead of time to work with them, help develop them, and help them be successful in the position, or find them a job if it's a job mismatch, something that's going to work better for them. Like, these are the things that we want you doing. And what ends up happening though is that's not the case, because supervisors aren't doing their job as far as educating their folks in the way it needs to be done. All right. In the short run, you might be creating some heightened performance standards and accountability, says Grant. In the long run, you may be shooting your organization in the foot. The evidence making employees fear for their jobs, he adds, is clear. They're very short-sighted decisions. Now, with that, we want to make sure that there is make sure that there's an understanding that fearful of losing their job is one thing, but understanding that you have to perform in order to perform as outlined in your job description, that also needs to be, that's not an unreasonable expectation. Okay. So we just got to make sure that there's a balance there. It's important. All right. So one of the reasons, by the way, I don't like using MSN on these things is because it defaults to the search box here. So as I'm switching back and forth between feeds, I get those numbers up there in my hotkeys. Anyways, back when America was first industrializing, the prevailing belief was that the best tool for driving employees was fear. The influential management theory, again, this theory is outdated, but it's not outdated because we've learned new things. It's outdated because the dynamic has shifted. It really has. There's labor laws in place. There's all these different things, but also the reason that people default to the fear setting, they have to be afraid they might lose their job. It's the easy decision to make from a leadership standpoint. It's one based out of frustration, fear, not out of any sort of educated decision making. That's one of the reasons why you see it tend to pop up so much. They're not worried that they're going to lose their job. So we've got to It's like, well, folks are always worried about losing their job. The idea is to help them be worried about not performing well and instilling that intrinsic motivation to want to perform well. Like, that's the idea. We're not going to go through this whole thing about Taylorism. It is what it is. But at General Electric, this is a big piece here where a lot of your business training comes from. Jack Welch famously ordered his managers to rank 20% of their employees as A players, 70% as B players, and the remaining 10%, many of whom were fired as low performance, are C players. Now, I do coach A, B, and C player rankings, employee rankings within my business coaching that I do. 100%. We have A, B, C players, and then we also have potential A players. There's this mix that we work. And the C players are there specifically, but the coaching is not to identify them. But the coaching is not to fire them. The coaching is to identify them as potential job mismatches. So where, say somebody who needs to be around people is stuck in looking at a computer screen all day, we want to find them a position where that they are in front of people, and then be able to take a look and see, like, okay, do they perform better there? So we look at job mismatch first, then we take a look at termination at that. But there's always that first step that maybe we hired them and did poorly on our side as far as putting them in a place where they can succeed. Okay. Again, they talk about the disaster here, but I want to get into, so staffers were rewarded for not just doing well, but making sure that their colleagues failed is something that you saw. As a result, the company was consumed by endless series of internal knife fights, potential market-busting businesses such as ebooks. There's all these things that were just the issues that have gone on before. All right, so the long history of management by fear has given scholars a lot of data to scrutinize. So what has all the research found? For starters, using terror to motivate your staff, it does work in the short run, right? Cortez burned his ships, as they famously say. We can only go forward. Now, when their jobs are hanging in the balance, employees will work harder and faster. But the initial surge of productivity, studies shown, comes at the expense of quality, right? Fast and wrong is still wrong. And the quality just gets shoddier because you are worried. Not only are you worried about getting your job done quickly, you're worried about doing your job with no mistakes, which leads you to have to balance. Am I going to get it done and meet the timeline? Well, I'm worried about making mistakes, which inevitably leads you to making more mistakes. Like, that's what happens, right? It's not a surprise. Now, what's more, work in the performance pressure cooker, I love this phrase in there, becomes less innovative. We talked about that. Fortune 500 company tech with more than 30,000 people. After a series of layoffs, the remaining high performance became less creative and generated fewer new ideas. And the reason being is that, this goes back to a Japanese saying, the the nail that sticks out gets hammered. So you want to go along to get along. Being willing to take those risks means there's an opportunity you could be fired. That's another concern that they have in there. So people focus very, very narrowly on protecting their jobs. They stop taking risks and think creatively and innovating, which is exactly what you need them to do in a turbulent environment. One of the things that I coach my clients with here, and we talk about this at length, almost ad nauseum at this point, is how when, I don't want to say this, it has to do with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And this is just going to nerd out a little bit here, that people need food, water, clothing, shelter in order, base level in order to function. And the vast majority of people are one paycheck away, one missed paycheck away from not being able to provide for food, water, clothing, or shelter, those things. So they will do everything they can to not get fired, to work not the bare minimum, but just to get done what they can or they think they can do, even though they're miserable in the job and they're not performing well, but they don't want to give up on the surety of a paycheck for the unknown of what is unemployment and then having to find another job. So they will intentionally be miserable and not be good at their job because they can't afford to find another job. This has been proven out time and time again. It's one of the things that I work with my clients on identifying that. And that's what we talk about. When you find somebody struggling, the first thing I want you to do is look at where they're working and see if there's a job or position where we can move them to that is the opposite. So if they're in production, we're going to move them to a place that's customer facing where they can talk with people and be around them. Or if they're customer facing, let's find them a job that doesn't have as many people around to see if that helps. Because again, most of the time when an individual is performing poorly, it's because they're in a job mismatch. Most of the time in my experience. So let's figure out how to get them there, okay? And when you do that, it gives them a little breathing room, but also think about what that does as for the psychology of that employee. Rather than firing a low performer, what you said, listen, we know you're capable. We think we feel pretty confident that we can get you in a place where you're going to be able to perform. So let's make a move and see what happens. The fact that the company just didn't cut bait with you and said, hey, no, we're going to give you a shot somewhere else where we do need the help, speaks volumes to that level of trust that you expect employees to extend to you as a business owner, for you to turn around and extend that trust back to them. Okay, so let's get back into say, MSN. Oh, I hate these. I hate doing articles on these guys. Anyways, the more you right here, the more you slash your low performers, the fewer high performers you wind up with. 100%. I mean, it's great to be the person that's needed, right? When you're a high performer, it sucks to be the only one around though, because now all that work gets dumped on you, right? Plus, the high performers, they like to develop the teams around them typically, so you want to make sure that they have good folks around them. Now, making employees fear their job security also causes them to flee. One study estimated laying off just 1% of a workforce would, on average, lead to a 31% spike in voluntary turnover. When you look at turnover costs, they are on average 1 to 200% of basically of your annual costs is what it looks like. It's expensive to rehire people, to have folks. I said the average, I want to say annual, excuse me on that. That's for the executive level. When at the base level, again, for base level employees, you're looking at, on average, it's around for fully trained, between $15,000 and $20,000 to fully, basically, for your inventory, your turnover cost per employee. It's extremely expensive. So we don't want to do that. And that's why most businesses don't want to lay people off. Now, that might not sound so terrible for a company that's trimming its headcount, but the departures aren't random. The first people to leave are the folks who are highly mobile, the people who have talent, the people that are your high performers. They see, uh-oh, there's trouble on this ship. They're gone. We're out. Deuces. And that's who you tend to lose when you start doing your layoffs. So you lay off your low performers. As you identify them, the next people out are going to be your high performers, because they're going to go. They're not trying to be at a place that's not moving up. It's not growing. And again, the other side of this is creating a culture of fear also makes it harder to recruit high performers. In one study, businesses that conducted layoffs slid in Fortune's ranking of the most admired companies for very good reason, right? If you are what appears to be randomly cutting people and laying them off, you're going to see that, which is the difference that we want to get into. Again, go check out, links are going to be in the description there. And I want to be able to talk to you about what it is that we do with my clients, where when layoffs happen, no one's surprised. They aren't. And when people are let go, it's not a surprise. So part of what I work with my clients on is our standard operating procedure has to do with the way that we're doing our reviews with folks. We do quarterly reviews where it's very straightforward on how well they're performing as far as culture and productivity. Real quick, you're in and out 15, 20 minutes per each one of these conversations with an annual, with a larger annual review, which is more on strategic planning and what they want to work on throughout the year, right? There is clear expectation laying, as well as how well people are measuring up against those expectations in each one of those reviews. So that you hear in one review, hey, you are not performing your job X, you're going to hear about it against the standard with hey, here we need to work on this. And they're going to continue to check in with you, each month as you're going along, and then have another in the next quarter. You're going to go back and take a look. And when you have 2 quarters in a row where you are not performing at the level that you should be, there's going to be conversations that are taking place. Obviously, we're documenting some stuff, but then it's going to be like, hey, do we have you in the wrong spot? Do we need to take a look at moving you to see if maybe there's a better fit for you right now? Hopefully there's a place to move you. If not, it is what it is. I mean, we can't just make work for you, but we're going to go back. If there's no place to move you to, we're going to continue to say, hey, you've got this next quarter, let's get on this. And by this point, and if we get to this third review in a row where things aren't going well, one of 2 things typically happens. One, the individual knows that, hey, this is not the right job for me, and they tend to self-select. They go find work elsewhere. But 2, everyone else is aware that they're not performing well, and when they are let go, which tends to happen after all the right documentation, all the work that you're supposed to be doing, when these things occur, no one else is surprised when they are let go. Okay. So that's really one of the main things that we work with my clients on, is that all the reviews happen consistently. Everyone knows where they're performing at any given time. We make an effort to try to find somebody a new job within the organization rather than just firing them because they're not doing well. But ultimately, if they are not performing, everyone else is aware. You know the folks around your work that aren't performing at a high level. Everyone knows that, right? And if you aren't aware of anyone not performing at a high level in your area, you might want to ask around, because it might be you. Just FYI. But with that, the question, they know, everyone is aware. So it's not based on, again, where they're saying the performance of fear that you have with folks. It's the open secret that we want you to perform very well. You spend a lot of time in our businesses. You're there to work with us. We want to make sure that you are performing at a very high level. It's super important to what we're doing. But if we try in one job and we try another job for you and you are not performing well, we are obviously not the right place for you to be. And we come to that agreement over time to help you prepare, but also to give you an opportunity to self-select and go. And no one is surprised by that as well. The other part of this is that when you just do these mass layoffs, right? And you say, we just got to cut 15% of our 10% of our, whatever it is, that percentage. you and it's done based on a short notice. Hey, here's the folks that going, and that's it. The basic agreement that you have with your employees is kind of shattered at that point, which is you come do exactly what we need you to do when we say and how we want it done, and then you do that, we give you money, right? So if you have folks that are meeting that, and then you have to come in and you just cut without any sort of notice or understanding, like this could be happening, to give them a chance to go, that's when you start losing high performers as well too, because now you've created uncertainty in the trust arrangement that you have with your employees. That's where you see a lot of that undercutting happening as well too. And they talk about it in the article. So again, be sure to go check that out. The biggest piece here is that if you were an employee, and you think for a second that you might be having difficulties, you're getting talked to, things like that, talk with your supervisor now. Come up with a plan on how you can perform better and start working at those things. But also take a strong look at, hey, where are you working at? Is this the right job for me? People are looking to hire right now, and within your industry, they're out there. They're not able to find folks that are the right quality because no one's leaving. So there's opportunity for you out there. If you're an employee, hold on. If you're a supervisor, let's go up the ladder here. If you're a supervisor, make sure you're being honest with your teams on how well they're performing. Your individuals, if they are not meeting the standard, you need to be clear and express exactly how they are not meeting the standard, and help them perform better. And then be open to possibly looking at reallocating their position, them to another position to see if it's a job mismatch. And if you're an employer, you have a responsibility to organize, train, and equip your folks. Like, that's your job. And if you have people that are not performing, it is your responsibility to make sure that you've done everything you can on your side to make sure that they're organized properly, like all the jobs make sense, that the job descriptions are written well, and you've hired people correctly into those jobs. It's your responsibility to make sure that they have everything that they need from an equipment standpoint, that they have what they need to be successful, that they're not, have a whole bunch of workarounds to get things done. And last is make sure that they're properly trained. And in order to train, you need to know exactly what that job is and make sure that you are training them to that standard, which is in line with their job descriptions. So your job descriptions need to be well. All these things you need to look at to be fair across the board. Now, with that, I know it's tough for most businesses to make sure that they have everyone fully trained. Who cares? It's your job as the business owner. That's what business owners are supposed to do. You don't allow excuses with your folks. Your folks shouldn't allow excuses for you up either. That's an important piece. Now, I help businesses with all of this every single day. So if you're a business owner and you're curious about how I help businesses grow faster than you ever thought possible, go ahead and check out summitbusinessguides.com. And you can see how I use the Pinnacle Business Operating System to help businesses grow faster than I ever thought possible. So with that, I appreciate y'all hanging out today. As always, I come here live pretty consistently every single day. Hopefully, I did earn your subscription today. Take care, and I will see you next time.